There are several technologies out there throughout the timelines, and it has been coded that of essential access to the mind from the back of the peripheral modes, the second access core, the second mind, the third eye. And once that's accessed, you're able to pull open what was lost within that mind core. Humans' minds have been calcified many times over. They lost a lot of, they've lost a lot between their third transitional code because of pharmaceuticals on a negative stance, negative chemicals and bioagents, warfare through the mind because of implementations being placed out from higher government agents. Humans pretty much have been mind controlled throughout the years and have lost what they had a long time ago over and over again. Advanced civilizations did not always mean higher terrestrials. There's a cooperative event where those higher terrestrials had assisted mankind, or mankind had worked with those advanced technologies itself.
Everybody, welcome to episode 58. Blue, how are you doing?
I'm great today, Mike.
Hey, I know we have a big show today in episode 58. What are we going to talk about?
One of the things we'll be discussing about is the 7 planes of existence and humanity's connections to that, extending the defined motions of many more dimensions not accessible and ones that still may become accessible, even to the mind itself.
Wow. You know, I love when you start talking about existential things and just things that can just blow your mind. It sounds like we're going to have another great show today in 58. Hey, before we get started, before we get going here in 58, please make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, click on notifications, follow, all those fun words so you're notified when we post new material. Of course, if we're not on a platform you prefer to get your stuff, let us know, and we'll try to get on that platform. And of course, click the link, and you can dress the part like we do here. Hey, Blue, let's get right into it. Let's get into 58.
Yes, exactly. The 7 planes of existence. Now we're dealing with both essential sides. One of the essential sides of the 7 planes of existence, we're talking about the authorical strand of it all, or the phases that go through that. There's the physical plane that goes through the lateral main terms, the intermediate plane, trapped soul aspects, transitional plane, the light plane, higher vibrational aspects, guide group level, light plane, alter plane, the higher levels into the source itself. Now, what we're talking about with these types of dimensions, we're talking about how it's even connected to the code of this actual dimension, or this actual plane of existence itself, the planetary realm, what cooperates with the levels of mankind, what they are already in tune with, whether it's cooperation of effect between the auric frequency drive that goes through your authorical strand, or the maintainment levels that exact between the forces of establishing, maintaining something way above what you're already categorized in within your own shell, and even around what you're already seeing through your peripheral vision modes. There are extensive dimensions that exist out there, and it's the dimensions that humans are already coordinated with, and they go on levels. When they reach into a third dimensional frequency drive that exists platonically through the levels of the actual world, and what it already maintains here on its own. When you run up to the 5th and 6th dimensions, you're prioritizing overextending your soul's inlaid mode, your extension of what you can deal with beyond your corporal being. And when it goes up above the seventh dimension, it opens up so much more to an advantage for humankind. Formerly, most of mankind are stuck on at least 1, 2, or 4 dimensions currently, because they're not knowing how to activate certain events. There are also extensions of dimensions that sit on the physical planes of existence. And these dimensions extend into the cosmic realms, the cosmic grid systems, geometrical ways, sub-inletted particles someone cannot even fathom to see yet, perceive through their mind. That runs even through a substantial mode that the physical plane could never enter. And that's usually through escalated dimensions. And there's at least over 150 of them. 224 terrestrial dimensions still exist that could cooperate through numerical levels.
All right, this is blowing my mind. All right, we're gonna have to slow this down a little bit for me. It sounds like, when you're at if you've ever been at a social event, especially as a young person, and a topic opens up and maybe mood modifying substances are being used, and you start asking these big questions, and this just appears to me to be one of those big expansive questions. So again, what we're saying here is, just like we've talked about in the past with these multiple planes, there's things that I can't perceive yet, and there's things that I can perceive, and then there's kind of the in-between where I can get to those things if I push myself, if I somehow can open my mind up enough to get to that next level. Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's 2 different types of numerical. We're dealing with the 7-dimensional frequency drive. We're talking about 7 times equals to the platform on a 14 frequency drive. And what we're maintaining is we're talking about both the physical dimensions of it all and the etherical dimensions. And currently, like I said, when we're the 3D graphical effects, there are 3 dimensions currently of space, length, width, and depth. And those dimensions currently exist as platform of life within this world, on this certain plane of existence. But when humans are able to extend and affiliate their mind and be able to move things on a physical term, and have the advantages of accepting other platforms, and that even includes creating portals or wormholes, or learning through geometrics and extending that platform of events. There's so much more than the graphical world that you're circulated around with. And it also goes into your etherical being, the 7 chakra system. That's another meaning of the 7 dimensions when it comes to the etherical strands of it all, besides the physical parts. There are actually at least over 14 to 15 known dimensions this can stand for, but there are hundreds out there that go through all different types of equations. Much more in an infinite span. But there's that main 7 polarity stream in an infinite larger dimensional scale currently here, especially dealing with the physics term.
All right, so I'm looking this stuff up as you're talking to me here, and I don't doubt you at all. It just, you specified there's 7 planes of existence, and I see according to the Google box here, physical plane, astral plane, mental plane, causal plane, Buddhic plane, spiritual plane, and divine plane. And then I pull up right next to it, because you had just talked about 7 chakras, which I found fascinating that those 2 numbers are exactly the same. And the 7 go as I know, I see, I speak, I love, I do, I feel, and I am. And that just kind of gives me chills, because they kind of line up exactly. And I don't know, just every time I talk to you, Blue, you blow my mind. And this is one of those times here. is there anything I can physically do or mentally do, or is there anything I can do to prepare myself to get to another level?
No, I mean, just this is just one thing's on a oracle stranded thing, but we're not going into the physical dimension, the aspects of that. We're accessing the string theory, or something that affiliates with one macroscopic string connected to numerical others in the cosmic system. What gets interesting is you will work with this is a physical term that you're all in, but there's an infinite span of the formal code that you coordinate to. And that goes all over. Everything has one connection. And that dimension can extend numerous times over. And there's authorical cables or authorical strands that connect into the mainframe of the cosmic ultraverse. And it creates a simple membrane itself. Humans' cortex, their minds, they're much more connected to the cosmos than they realize. You never die. Not when you think you may pass through on your shells, but you never truly die. And that's why there are humans here that remember their past lives. They have affiliated modes of remembering something from another dimension altogether. Where would they get that memory from? They're accessing other dimensional codes within their being to get that, to access that point. This is just saying there's so much more there in the cosmic realm than what humans perceive for. And there's so much more that can be accessed within the mind and the body itself. Kind of like what Elon Musk and the Neuralink and the sciences that they want to implement for the mind. I would be careful, yes, but I was also maybe exploring, see what could be accessed again, what was lost. Because it may very well open up a whole new dimension for mankind again. It may very well help them. But with those, with vital information and with great power comes great responsibility. So just remember, for all the corporations out there, including the space ones, with your great power comes great responsibility. So make sure that certain responsibilities placed outwards, right?
You know, that's kind of where I was leading to my next question, because it's a shame I have to ask this, but can this be weaponized? Do you think the government can use these things to their advantage somehow? Is there another application for this, more nefarious? We were always talking about that good versus evil.
For Neuralink? Not for Neuralink. It could be something of a great asset for mankind if the stabilization comes in processing speeds well, and not something that would destruct them. There are several technologies out there throughout the timelines, and it has been coded that of essential access to the mind from the back of the peripheral modes, the second access core, the second mind, the third eye. And once that's accessed, you're able to pull open what was lost within that mind core. Humans' minds have been calcified many times over. They lost a lot of, they've lost a lot between their third transitional code because of pharmaceuticals on a negative stance, negative chemicals and bioagents, warfare through the mind because of implementations being placed out from higher government agents. Humans pretty much have been mind controlled throughout the years and have lost what they had a long time ago over and over again. Advanced civilizations did not always mean higher terrestrials. There's a cooperative event where those higher terrestrials had assisted mankind, or mankind had worked with those advanced technologies itself.
So talking about these things, it kind of reminds me that we've talked about it in the past, how there'd be hieroglyphics on the cave walls and they'd be the same on one end of the world to the other, and those two people never met and so forth. And then we're talking about things like interdimensional things. We're talking about existences. We're talking about religions. We're talking about opening up your mind. And I get brought back to this third eye thing you and I have talked about in the past. And of course, in Hindu and Buddhism, that's a big deal. And through meditation, you may be able to get to one of these other planes. Is that what we should be doing? Should we be striving to open the human mind back up? You said it had been shut down over the years. It had been calcified over the years. Should we be looking to expand our minds that way, open ourselves up more?
That's one way to find a motivation for mankind. And just the construct and the layers of the cortex itself, the membrane, have to be something that's manually set apart from the actual normal animal species itself that already live here. Humans are not Neanderthals. And yes, there's been many motions of a lot of the species moving back towards that, progressing backwards, losing their ways. But there has also been progressive modes to moving things forward. Humans were never evolved from apes. They were fabricated from higher intellectual species to find and stabilize themselves as a growing acclimated number.
I saw in our notes here, you had a lot to talk about involving the Pentagon and space and so forth. What's going on?
Pentagon space strategies, Project Solaris, and Europe space-based solar power. Now, with this, we are discussing about goes into the coordinated speeds of certain space programs that we'd be able to access space-based solar power off the grid and eventually on the grid system. And this itself would prove an asset to provide more cleaner energy upon the realms. High activated solar levels, as well as stabilizing those levels with advanced technologies that could implement through communicative, a certain high advanced satellite terms that could distribute. And I'm not talking about comm satellites, where we're actually talking about electromagnetic or impulsive waves that could equalize those substandards around certain areas. Similar to Arctech, and as well as proactive protective layers of those corporate technologies itself and maintained through base solar power. Now, what will happen with Solaris is through health and safety issues, because a lot of the carbon that's being corporately placed upon the realm, and because of what they had put off the realm through certain status effects on progressive node. Through Solaris, Europe will extend technology state-of-the-art and diverse set of key technologies. These implemented technologies will help stabilize the fundamental energy around the planet. It will take away a lot of the negative fuels that are being passed around already. And those carbon fuels are maintained through, obviously, vehicles or other types of technologies that don't corporately place out there well. And so forth, called global warming. It helps take away that event, and through their corporations would help fundamentally place things outwards.
You know, I can't help but think, and this is going to be comical, because you can go back and you can look at our videos on our YouTube channel, and every one of them where we talk about HAARP or the government interfering with the weather and so forth, they have a big thing, a big disclaimer. It's in print. It's before any of our descriptions and stuff. It's amazing to me. Are we saying that we're going to be the government, the Pentagon, they're looking to space for power? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, pretty much the Solaris, the goal of it is to prepare the ground for a possible decision in 2025 in a full development program. to establish technical, political, and program of the viability of space-based solar power. So pretty much Project Solaris is a clean energy-based program through space that eventually will not only provide higher technologies that would acclimate through fundamentals through robotics science, as well as aerodynamic vehicles being propelled through that type of energy, as well as the defined elemental biowave nuclear energy, would help take away and eradicate a lot of the fossilized fuels they put out there now.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this, and we've talked about the HAARP system, okay?
Yes.
And there's so much control if you think about it. Just step back from everything for a minute. Close your eyes. You think, okay, the government or the powers that be, they kind of control what we access, what we watch, what we hear, what we see. Now I'm hearing the government, and then the government controls what I can do, where I can go, how I can use my own property. They collect money on my own property. And then the government goes to controlling the weather, what's all around me. Then the government's going to space to control out there. Am I reading too much into this, Blue, or is this another step in just controlling everything?
Now, this program, Project Solaris, will be an asset and a benefit for mankind. It'll be something that will help create a stabilization point for cleaner energy around the realm. Fossil fuels are not something to be established good upon the planet. It harms mankind. It harms the creatures. It harms the atmosphere. These fossil fuels are from gas itself, carbon-based alloy structures. If we want to be able to keep our planet, if humans want to be able to keep their planet and maintain it and keep it clean, they're going to have to fundamentally replace and or establish something besides the current state that they are placing out there, because ultimately that's going to destroy this planet. And the fossil fuels and creating more vehicles and destroying and creating more roads and houses and everything, it's ultimately killing off everywhere around you. There's got to come a point where there has to be placed an equal term between the advancements of society and the planet itself.
I see in your show notes, and again, we talk about Hawaii. We've talked about Hawaii in the past. And this Kona Blue Program and reverse engineering, is this going in the same realm of what we're talking about here? Is this all together?
Yes, Kona Blue reverse engineering is a so-called a secret program that never really was placed out there. It was never established as a highly classified special access program, but it was affiliated, as well as many other programs out there, to gather information of undocumented UAPs that have either landed or have crashed upon the planetary interface. The ones that have crashed, and yes, there have been numerical beings throughout the timelines that have died upon impact and crashed upon this planet or shot down by government, had been gathered that type of technology. These governments, I want to be honest, some of what they do probably isn't nice toward other species, but other things that they do and deal with, cooperative levels of effect help maintain and establish a lot of what certain militaries have now. Gathered these technologies, used scientific advantages through them, and re-replicated those types of technologies to the humankind's advantage for the planet. Noted Project Kona Blue, and it's interesting, Project Bluebeam, certain other acclimated effects out there. It's got the similar name, but also very much real. The Pentagon has noted out there several times over about reverse technologies, reverse engineering, but they also have lied about it too and have hidden it. But if they had lied and had hidden it, why would they code it as well? This really needs to have an eye-opener for most of mankind. What we do, or what you do and what you deal with, is not just only on your own terms. It was either assisted or affiliated on a whole nother dimension itself.
Well, we've talked about it before, and if my great grandfather or somebody from maybe 100 years ago saw the technology we hold in our hands today and what we can do, they would have thought I was from another planet, or this technology was from another planet. And the slow dripping out of information, the slow dripping out of disclosure, the slow dripping out of the technology. It's obvious to me that the technologies that we use as a general populace today was technology that was used behind the scenes in the military and so forth years before, using it to their advantage and dripping it out, perfecting it. I mean, the military came up with the internet, right? I mean, that's how the internet that we use today. So it's amazing to me how these things happen. And yeah, it's definitely reverse engineering, if you ask me.
Military clouding of certain substructures. Now, Project Storm Fury was an attempt to weaken tropical cyclones by flying aircraft into them and seeding with silver iodide. The project is run by United Air Force and other departments. What gets interesting is we already know that HAARP and certain other generalizers and DARPA itself have maintained a certain activated events through hyper-militarized strategies, including what goes upon the atmosphere and up above it, what humans are not aware of. Now, there is a controlled interwave phase that could proactively provide good, but something that's hidden among strategies. Some of this seeding and the military seeding, like pretty much lessening cyclones or lessening tornadoes or higher catastrophic events, are implemented outwards to help mankind or help lessen the levels of something else altogether throughout the planet. That's a type of militarized strategy. Even the orders, the Space Force, and certain Air Force departments, as well as others, that maintain and watch over numerical events across the planet, across the system. That's one reason. Another is they're hiding strategies amongst the air. Like there's reverse technologies through aircrafts, even UFO aircrafts that acclimate or claimed through military itself. And they create these fake lightning storms or these fake storms with subsonic booms. They're not real. If they're actually going on, you can't see it from the upper hemisphere. There are war fights going on, either fake ones or they have real intergalactic wars just above the hemisphere, thus creating the certain seeding awareness stream itself. I mean, there's a negative militarized point, negative impasse through their other agendas to see certain cloud structures and create sicknesses. But there's also a whole other end of the property, and that goes into this. And they're bound to saying that they're wanting to close HAARP altogether. And if that's the case, that may have to come to me so we could cooperate on better levels for the planet.
You look back, and I'm somewhat of a history buff, and I look back to World War II, for instance, and the weather affected the invasion of Normandy. It delayed it. The weather affected, we had to have a certain amount of cloud cover to do what we were trying to do as well. So it's amazing to me that it's spun to the point where, okay, we found this weather to be advantageous. We found this weather to be disadvantageous. We need to make that happen. And then I think I heard that last little part you said there about maybe a way to spread disease. Could that be a thing that they're using? They could use this to spread disease. Is that what I heard?
No. So
Okay.
another type of actual cloud seeding would be through, how they create with those lines with the airplanes, the
Yeah.
spraying. That's what I'm talking about. That creates negative aspects. Not all of them, but there are numerical
Chemtrails.
accounts that, yes.
Wow. Crazy. Nothing to see here, folks. Don't bother looking up. Don't bother looking at those things. We're not ready for you to know that yet. Speaking of things that we got to know about, I want to know about the SCP. I see we got some interesting ones here today.
Yes. SCP-170, A Tube of Superglue. And it gets interesting with this is it appears to be a standard tube of superglue, but when it's placed on any texture and you're implementing with any type of texture with that, it creates a subatomic infused wave. It bends the dimensions between two animated objects. The object the glue was already put on and the actual object touching that object. It would go right through it. And it would bend the dimensions right through it. Regular glue, you stick a piece of paper on something there, it's stuck on contact. This pretty much goes right through.
All right.
Right through, and then after a certain amount of an insertion through the object itself, it stops bending the dimensions, and it glues both properties together, right on through.
See, this sounds like a very marketable product. This sounds like something we should all have or we should all be able to use. But I looked at the picture here it's crazy how it kind of is it through a fusel system or something that it actually makes the two one and the same almost, no?
It has some type of biodark elemental wave matter that generalizes around two products. And when those chemicals touch each other, it creates an implemented effect that recalibrates the substructure itself and decommissions it until a certain amount of time. Once the glue starts freezing, starts getting hard is when it's within seconds type of interval. It could be something bad too if it goes into the wrong hands. Because you could lose a finger, you could lose a body part. You just have it stuck to the substructure. It would go right through it.
A lot of people aren't aware. Sometimes if you get a cut or something, they'll take in a hospital or doctor type setting, they'll use super glue to heal wounds, to put instead of stitches in certain places and so forth. They'll use super glue. But again, to be clear, this is not the one and the same. This is not your over the counter super glue we're talking about, right?
No, it's much more stronger, and it can bend and move the molecules around. So it can pose as a threat if not utilized proper.
Is it kind of related to the next SCP here, I see?
Well, the SCP we're talking about next is more higher terrestrial, and it's more inclined to a metallic alloy substructure. Yes, there is a dark material in it as well. SCP-225, Unstoppable and Immovable. Two polarized objects are shiny gray metallic spheres of unknown origin and composition, each with a diameter of 0.681 meters. They appear stable and motionless, but is in fact moving in a geosynchronous path above Earth. So they're always above Earth at the exact speed of Earth's rotation. These are a type of affiliated terrestrial drone. And if they ever impact between each other and hit each other, it could create a catastrophic event between the whole planet. So a semi-inert is drone as well as something that could possibly pose a threat if it was activated on a negative term. Humans are not able to activate this type of terrestrial technology. But it is also a radar scale. It's able to take in information and analytics points, but besides that, if it provides as a threat, yeah, that could be posed and they hit each other. There would come something, it would bring so much negative stance. It follows the path around the sun, though, nearly synchronizes with Earth. This type of terrestrial technology has been around for eons around this actual matrix.
Is this the type thing that's maybe controlled by the magnetism from Earth? Is it kind of work like a satellite to us?
Yes.
Like our moon?
It can be controlled through the magnetism. It cannot be controlled by mankind. Nothing can move it. But it also is controlled by higher terrestrials, and I'm not allowed to implement who they are.
To me, it sounds like when we put a satellite somewhere, or when we send a probe or a telescope out in space, it almost sounds like this could be that.
Yes, it's like a probe. It goes around the place, but there are two of them. But it also could be implemented as a major weapon. It felt a polarity threat come into the field. They're supposed to be apart from each other and not supposed to get too close, because it could create a high polarity impact upon the world and sink it from the inside out.
Like an implosion. Wow. Man, oh man, that's crazy. I love it when we talk about the SCPs. I don't want to run out of time here today. What do you have to report from the Space Force and your position with the Federation?
Yes, Stonehenge. What's going on here? So we hear two people causing havoc there. This is an ancient line of advanced civilizations, as well as those that have maintained through the nativity at the time. And they spraying these ancient stones in orange paint. Just because of global warming or something else going on this planet. This is ridiculous on a high account. And humans should be ashamed of themselves for acting the way that they do. In Yellowstone, I do got a good thing. Yellowstone, they recently had a birth of a white bison calf. To the Native American Indians, this is a prophecy that good times are to come. And we got to respect the Native Americans, too, to their levels, because they're not far off with things. And let me tell you, a lot of them know more about the Earth than what others perceive here currently. So to be able to see this happen, there may be hope on the horizon for people, for mankind. And it goes into Donald Trump and the Intergalactic Federation and what he recently coded out there. Had an interview about UAPs, about UFOs. And talked and discussed, yes, in the way he believes. These are out there coding it to government agents. Well, we already have a lot of the current administration, including governments who run with that, negative bias standard, don't want to commission these better advanced technologies, and who and or what implemented them next to Donald Trump and many other elites out there. He is coding this. He created Space Force for a reason. He visited Area 51, dealt with Nikola Tesla. He dealt with the Kennedys. He had dealt with Elon Musk and others for a reason. Let's give this guy some hope that at least he wants to establish something. There may be something much better that the whole planet could look forward to. Give it a reason. Give it a go. U.S. allegedly in contact with the Galactic Federation, obviously. Let's see where that flows.
Yeah. Yeah, Blue, I totally agree with what you're saying there with President Trump. And just for the record, I will be heading to Yellowstone real soon. So I'll keep my eyes open for that white buffalo there, that bison. That should be interesting. Are we ready to talk about ET of the week?
Yes, the ET of the week, Nanuet Grey, a second cousin to the Reticuli Grey Star Domains, one of the few individual entities which were affiliated with Dwight D Eisenhower in Interplanetary Galactic Treaties, known in Telepathic Communication and Digital Terrestrial Chip Technologies that remain one of many other intact advantages brought to mankind through sectors of government. Heights range usually from 5 foot 8 inches to 6 foot 3 inches in length and can blend in amongst mankind or humans via Hyper Shell Cloaking Interloop or Interfuge. One of us believed 3 or other subspecies that had met in affiliation with Dwight D Eisenhower. Are certain subspecies still in affiliation with governments? Yes, very well so. Are there several others? Yes, very well so. And they're considered neutral, not negative, not positive. They're going to maintain on both stances in equal terms for generators amongst many planetized systems.
You know, I'm looking at the picture here, and it looks like that Gollum character from Lord of the Rings. Is it just me, or is that kind of look that way?
Well, you know, when they pick up from movies and other activated events, humans code things out there. They look to simulating things that are already on and around the world, and then just put it into a movie term. Where do you think they even get the ideas? Think about Star Trek and all these other science fiction movies. Where do they get the ideas? You know, it's not already out there. They're not already talking to certain species that look similar to what's already accepted on those movies.
So again, these are definitely good guys then.
Yes, they're neutral. So neutral, they can both the cooperative terms. So they like to establish things more than they wouldn't want to decimate it. They're more established in society's system. Cooperative with obviously nanotechnologies and technologies at the digital terrestrial phase.
I just hope that when all is discovered and all is disclosed and people look back in time, we still have the technology to go back and look at our shows. Like, for instance, the reason why I say this is way back in time, you had reel-to-reel. And then you had, phonographs, you had albums, records, and so forth. It's hard to play an album right now. I know they're making a comeback. It's hard to play a cassette or an 8-track or a reel-to-reel now. I hope we have the technology in the future to come back and look at this stuff here, Blue, because we can say Blue was on top of it so many years ago. Blue was telling us about these things years ago. And I really hope that technology exists in the future. Remember,
Mike, we had discussed similar aspects before on network shows about advanced technologies that could be implemented within the mind and be able to mirror that effect through transitional code through the timelines. That can very well happen in the near future.
Amazing stuff once again today, Blue. Awesome. Jam-packed show, overflowing with info. Go back and listen to it again, folks. That's what I do. Hey, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time in episode 59. Thanks, Blue.
Yep. Thank you, Mike.